Who was the first person on the moon? At 2:56 Greenwich Mean Time, on 21 July 1969, American astronaut Neil Armstrong became the first person to walk on the moon. Earth's moon is the fifth largest of the 200-plus moons orbiting planets in our solar system. Earth's only natural satellite is simply called the Moon because people did not know other moons existed until Galileo discovered 4 moons orbiting Jupiter in 1610. Earth has one large natural satellite known as the Moon. Earth's moon is the only place beyond Earth where humans have set foot. The brightest and largest object in our night sky, the Moon makes Earth a more livable planet by moderating our home planet's wobble on its axis, leading to a relatively stable climate. It also causes tides, creating a rhythm that has guided humans for thousands of years. The Moon was likely formed after a Mars-sized body collided with Earth. Armstrong was first to step out of the Apollo 11 lunar module and onto the Moon's surface in an area called the Sea of Tranquility. This was the first ever step of man towards exploring the space practically. This was America who first time landed on the Moon, having a crew of 12 persons who actually landed on Moon. The iconic moon landing took place on 21 July 1969. Millions around the world watched the landing on television. Politics, war, famine, and other news stories were pushed to the back of the queue as the world celebrated an outstanding example of human endeavor. After the two stepped onto the lunar surface, Armstrong and his crewman, he proclaimed these famous words, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." Armstrong and Aldrin boarded Apollo 11's lunar module, the Eagle, and began to descend to the Moon's surface. The Eagle made a risky landing in a shallow moon crater named the Sea of Tranquility. Most people watching the landing on TV didn't know that the Eagle had only 20 seconds of landing fuel left at this point. Armstrong and Aldrin looked out the windows of the module at the lifeless and barren lunar landscape. After 6.5 hours passed, the pair inside the Eagle prepared to exit the module. As mission commander, Armstrong stepped out first and became the first person on the Moon. Secondly, Russia, but amazingly it's first. The first human-made object to touch the Moon was the Soviet Union's Luna 2 on 13 September 1959. It is actually the first lunar landing, but Russia did not send any person to space in lunar landing. Unfortunately, not every Apollo mission made it to the Moon. Apollo 13 was intended to be a lunar landing mission, but an explosion in one of the oxygen tanks forced the crew to abort their landing and return home. Thirdly, it's China. On October 15, 2003, the first Chinese astronaut Yang Liwei was launched aboard Shenzhou 5 spacecraft atop a long March 2 rocket from Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. The spacecraft was inserted into orbit 10 minutes after launch, making Yang the first Chinese in space. In 2013, China successfully landed a rover on the Moon, becoming only the third country to do so. At the time, Chinese leader Xi Jinping said the space dream is part of the dream to make China stronger. Under Xi's leadership, China has spent billions on its ambitious space program. China is the only country to have successfully landed on the Moon in the 21st century, and in 2019, it also became the first to land a probe on the Moon's far side. This was the first ever landing the last 5 decades, making China anew in the competition in this long time. The US followed with 5 Surveyor soft landings. China's ongoing Chang program has landed 3 times since 2013, achieving soil sample return and the first landing on the far side of the Moon. The Soviet Union achieved the first uncrewed lunar soil sample return with Luna 16 on 24 September 1970. Currently, Chandrayaan 3 successfully landed on the Moon on 23 August 2023, making India the first nation to successfully land a spacecraft on the lunar South Pole region, and the 4th country to land on the Moon after the Soviet Union, the United States, and China. But this is not the first attempt of India of lunar landing. After almost a year, the orbiter started experiencing several technical issues, including failure of the star tracker and poor thermal shielding. Chandrayaan-1 stopped communicating at about 2000 UTM, 28 August 2009, shortly after which the ISRO officially declared that the mission was over. The director of the Space Applications Center, Nilesh M. Desai, was responsible for making the critical components of Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft. The SAC has built 11 sensors or subsystems for the spacecraft. The Indian spacecraft Chandrayaan-3 landed on Wednesday on the Moon's south pole, an uncharted territory that scientists believe could hold vital reserves of frozen water and precious elements. In general, it's very difficult to land on the south part of the Moon. Most vehicles have landed in the equator region of the Moon, where the characteristics of the Moon are much easier to deal with. Christopher Consolis, professor of extragalactic astronomy at the University of Manchester, told Al Jazeera. They also had to do it on a shoestring budget and ended up spending only 6.15 billion rupees, or about $75 million, on the mission. The Chandrayaan-3 mission makes India the first country to reach the lunar South Polar region in one piece and adds to the achievements of the country's homegrown space program. Well, of all this, this is a huge movement for nation to achieve such a greater goal. The world is congratulating India over its huge success. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan also praised what he called a historic landing. India's Chandrayaan-3 mission will reach the Moon after a journey of over 40 days, in contrast to NASA's Apollo 11. The Apollo 11 mission in 1969, crewed by 3 astronauts, took 4 days, 6 hours and 45 minutes. Apollo 10 holds the record for the highest velocity reached by a crewed spacecraft at 24,791 miles per hour. The place where India had landed on Moon 14 days long days and nights. Before just 3 days of Chandrayaan-3 landing on Moon's south pole, Russian lunar craft just crashes with a loss of $200 million. At the same time, Chandrayaan-3 landed on Moon with just 615 crore cost. Is it so amazing? Here, the question is, if landing on the south pole of Moon is so dangerous and impossible, then why there is need to go there? The reason behind it is that scientists and astronauts want to make their future safe, and for this they want to set a space base camp on Moon so that less fuel burning occur, and this will result in lesser energy loss. Chandrayaan-3 consists of 3-part, and it can produce a thrust 2000 key. It is specially designed for soft landing on Moon. President Vladimir Putin called the Moon landing an impressive achievement, days after Moscow's own mission crashed. This is the huge step of mankind towards the space, but no one knows where it ends. If you like the video, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for latest video.